Hi friends, welcome to English Study Point. Today in this video lecture I am going to discuss The Epithalamion by Edmund Spenser, and this video is part 4. Let no lamenting cries nor doleful tears. So the speaker wishes to banish sorrow and grief, emphasizing a desire for a joyful occasion, likely a wedding. Lamenting cries and doleful tears signal deep sadness. Be heard all night within nor yet without. So this line suggests that both the inner sanctum, perhaps the couple's private space, and the outside world should be free from sorrow. It highlights the occasion's importance. Nay, let false whispers breeding hidden fears. So the speaker calls for silence from rumors and whispers which can cause anxiety and distress. The notion of hidden fears suggests paranoia that might disrupt the celebration. Break gentle sleep with misconceived doubt. So, doubt refers to doubt or uncertainty. The speaker seeks to protect peaceful slumber from interruptions caused by misinterpretations and fears. Enforcing here, he is enforcing theme of protection during joyous times. Let no deluding dreams nor dreadful sights. So the speaker wishes to avoid nightmares, deluding dreams, and any frightening visions that can disrupt this special occasion. Dreams can symbolize deeper subconscious fears, make sudden sad affrights. So this line articulates a plea for peace, as sudden shocks or scares can bring distress. The focus here is on maintaining a serene emotional state. Nay, let house fires nor lightings helpless harms. So house fires means house fires and lighting symbolize destructive forces. The speaker begs for the absence of calamities that would mar the happiness of the event. Nay, let the Pook nor other evil sprites. So, Pook refers to a mischievous spirit or fairy. The speaker warns against supernatural entities that thrive in mischief and negativity, seeking to dispel malevolent influences. Nay, let mischievous witches with dire charms. So, this highlights witches who use magic to create trouble. The speaker's desire to ward off harmful enchantments underscores a fear of malevolent forces affecting their joy. Nay, let hobgoblins, names whose sense we see not. So, hobgoblins are mischievous spirits that invoke fear and uncertainty. The speaker draws attention to unknown evils, emphasizing the threat posed by unfamiliar and unseen. Fray us with things that be not. So, here he focuses on the fear of illusions or imaginary horrors. It underscores theme of facing reality versus the fears that arise from the unknown. Let not the shriek owl nor the stroke be heard. So the owl's shriek symbolizes death or misfortune, while the stork represents family or motherhood. So the speaker desires to keep ominous sounds at bay, which might invoke unwanted reflection. Nor the night raven that still deadly yells. So ravens are associated with death or bad omens. The speaker wishes for silence from this portentous symbol, reinforcing a desire for positive energies. Nor damned ghost called up with mighty spells. So here we see the invocation of ghosts through spells heightens the supernatural theme, while the word damned emphasizes that these spirits are unwanted. Here is the idea conveys a desire to avoid haunting memories or regrets. Nor grisly vultures make us once afeared. So vultures symbolize decay and death. The speaker seeks to dispel images of fear and distress, creating a protective shield around the joyous event. Nay, let the unpleasant odor of frogs still croaking. So the choir of frogs suggests a chorus of croaking that could disrupt the peace. Frogs considered as unpleasant in this context, and it indicates a desire for a harmonious atmosphere. Make us to wish dire choking. So, this line expresses a desperate yearning for quiet. It implies that instead of irritation, the frog's croaking creates a wish for their silencing, underscoring the need for tranquility. Let none of these dire dray accents sing. So, the speaker reiterates the desire for silence, describing the sounds as or sorrowful, reinforcing theme of avoiding negativity during a momentous occasion. Nay, let the woods them answer, nor their echo ring. So, this closing line ties the natural world into the request for peace, as echoes and woodland sounds should not resonate with the sorrowful accents. It shows the speaker's complete rejection of unhappiness in all realms. Now, here we see, but let still silence to night watches keep. So, the speaker requests that silence remains undisturbed during the night. Silence emphasizes the quietude necessary for the sacredness of the moment, suggesting a peaceful night that allows for intimacy. That sacred peace may in assurance reign. So, sacred peace signifies tranquility and purity. The speaker hopes that this peace would prevail, allowing the celebration of love and union to feel secure and sanctified. And timely sleep when it is time to sleep. So, this reflects the natural cycle of day and night and suggests that sleep should arrive at the appropriate moment. It emphasizes the importance of the rhythm of life, especially on a special occasion. May pour his limbs forth on your pleasant plain. So, the imagery of pour his limbs suggests surrendering to sleep within a beautiful idyllic setting. The pleasant plain symbolizes the comfort and joy of love, creating a nurturing environment for rest and union. The Wiles and 100 Little Winged Loves. So, introducing a whimsical image, Little Winged Loves represents playful representations of love akin to cherubic figures or spirits. So, this idea underscores love's enchanting and light-hearted aspects. Like diverse feathered doves. So, the comparison to diverse feathered doves enhances the imagery of love as gentle and peaceful. Doves are symbols of love and fidelity, reinforcing themes of romance and union. Shall fly and flutter round about your bed. So, the fluttering and movement represent the liveliness of love surrounding the newlyweds. The bed symbolizes intimacy, reflecting the love that envelops the couple. And in the secret dark that none reproves. So, the secret dark suggests intimacy and seclusion, where the pair can exist without external judgment or interference. This emphasizes the sanctity of their union. Their pretty steels shall work and snares shall spread. So, the pretty steeds implies the subtle and mischievous aspects of love, suggesting that love captures the heart akin to traps or snares, inviting adventure and allure to fletch away sweet snatches of delight. So here we see the playful notion of love being captured, signifying that enjoyable moments are fleeting and should be treasured. It implies that beauty and joy come in brief, delightful experiences. Concealed through covert night. So, concealed underlines the secretive and intimate nature of romantic encounters, emphasizing that these moments thrive in the privacy of night, away from prying eyes. Ye sons of Venus, play your sports at will. So, the sons of Venus refers to personifications of love and desire, inviting them to reveal freely. It suggests that even divine inspirations of love are encouraged to express themselves fully. For greedy pleasure, careless of your toys. So, greedy pleasure describes the insatiable nature of love and joy, prioritizing the immediate enjoyment rather than the moral implications of actions. thinks more upon her paradise of joys. So, pleasure is seen as transcendent, focused on the blissful outcomes of love, reinforcing hedonistic themes where joy takes precedence over consequences. Then, what ye do, albeit good or ill. So, this juxtaposition results in a tension between morality and pleasure, suggesting that the act of loving and enjoying transcends ethical considerations. All night, therefore, attend your merry play. So, the speaker urges the lovers to indulge in their happiness throughout the night, clearly suggesting the importance of seizing romantic opportunities, for it will soon be day. So, the impending arrival of day introduces the idea that the joyous moments of night are temporary. It serves as a reminder to appreciate fleeting beauty before it passes. Now none doth hinder you that say or sing. So this indicates an open space for love to flourish without restrictions, removing inhibitions, suggesting freedom in the expression of love and joy. Nay, will the woods now answer, nor your echo ring. So, this line emphasizes solitude, highlighting how nature remains silent and uninvolved in their intimate movement. The woods and echo symbolize all external influences that keeps love sacred, nature private. Now here we see who is the same which at my window peeps. So the speaker questions the identity of someone watching them through the window, introducing a sense of mystery and a personal connection to the observer. Or whose is that fair face that shines so bright? So the fair face likely symbolizes beauty and divinity, hinting at an ethereal presence embodying idealized love or a muse. Is it not Cynthia, she that never sleeps? So, Cynthia refers to the moon, associated with Artemis or Diana, known for its nocturnal presence, establishing the theme of love in the night, but walks about high heaven all the night. So, the moon is depicted as wandering the heavens, emphasizing its omnipresence and connection to the romantic and mysterious elements of night. O fairest goddess, do thou not envy. So the speaker addresses the moon directly, personifying it as a goddess and expressing a desire for its goodwill, invoking a plea for divine favor. My love with me to spy. So the speaker hopes the moon will witness a romantic union, elevating the personal emotion to a cosmic level, appealing for celestial support. For thou likewise didst love thou now unthought. So this suggests that the moon has experienced love before, implying a shared understanding of longing and desire. And for a fleece of wool, which privily, so referring to the myth of Endymion who presented a fleece to attract the moon's attention, the line highlights themes of sacrifice and offering in love. The let me and shepherd once unto thee brought. So this line recalls the legend of Endymion, deepening the connection between the nocturnal goddess and earthly love, adding layers of mythology. His pleasures with thee wrought. So the speaker acknowledges the fulfillment of love and desire, marking a connection between the divine and mortal realms. Therefore, to us be favorable now. So the speaker seeks the moon's goodwill for their own love, turning the previous mythological reference into a personal request. And sith of women's labors thou hast charge. So the moon is associated with women's reproductive cycles, reinforcing its role as a symbol of fertility and the natural order. And generation goodly thus enlarge. Referring to the moon's influence on fertility and births, the speaker emphasizes the connection between love, union, and creation. Incline thy will, the effect our wishful vow. So the plea for the moon to assist in fulfilling their vows symbolizes a request for heavenly endorsement of their earthly commitment, and the chaste womb inform with timely seed. So the speaker is specifically praying for fertility, wishing for conception to blossom within a virtuous womb. So thus connecting love with procreation, that may our comfort breed. So the speaker hopes that this offspring will bring joy and fulfillment, linking family and love as central themes. Then we see till which we seize our hopeful hap to sing. So the speaker expresses a longing and anticipation for the fruition of their desires, contemplating the silence of hope until their wish is granted. Nay, let the woods us answer, nor our echo ring. So this line emphasizes a desire for the natural world to reflect their love and wishes, seeking a deep connection between their love, nature, and the cosmos. And thou, great Juno, which with awful might. So, Juno, the Roman goddess of marriage, is called upon. Awful night suggests her powerful role in protecting and overseeing marriage. The laws of wedlock still does patronize. Juno is recognized as a patron of martial marital laws and customs, reinforcing the sacred nature of marriage and the religion of the faith first blight. So this refers to the promise of marriage, emphasizing the solemn vows made during the ceremony, which sacred rites has taught to solemnize. So Juno is credited with establishing the rites and ceremonies that make marriages sacred. And Eek for comfort, often called art. So Eek means also suggesting that Juno provides comfort to women in their trials during marriage, of women in their smart. So smart refers to pain or suffering, indicating that marriage can involve challenges and hardships for women. Eternally bound thou this lovely band. So the speaker asks Juno to bless and secure the marriage bond being formed, emphasizing its beauty and importance. And all thy blessings unto us impart. So a request for Juno to bestow her blessings upon the newlyweds, asking for divine favor in their union. And thou glad genius in whose gentle hand. So glad genius refers to a benevolent spirit or deity associated with happiness and domestic harmony, potentially representing the guardian of the household. So the bridal bower and genial bed remain. The speaker invokes genius to watch over the bridal chamber, emphasizing intimacy and the private aspects of marriage without blemish or stain. So, a plea for purity and perfection in their union, suggesting a desire for a flawless relationship and the sweet pleasures of their love's delight. So, this line celebrates the joy and sensuality that come with love and marriage, with secret eyed, dose, succor, and supply. So the genius is asked to provide quiet support to the couple, ensuring that their love flourishes till they bring forth the fruitful progeny, a wish for children underlining the expectation of procreation and the continuation of the family line. Send us the timely fruit of this same night. So I direct request for the immediate blessing of fertility on their wedding night, symbolizing hope for conception. And thou fair Hebe, and thou Hymen free. So Hebe is the goddess of youth and Hymen is the god of marriage. The speaker calls upon them for their blessings. Grant then that it may be so be. So, a straightforward supplication for the fulfillment of their desires, a wish for divine approval of their marriage, till which we cease your further praise to sing. So, the speaker indicates that they will pause their praises to the gods until their wishes are granted. Nay, any woods shall answer, nor your echo ring. So, a final note on the muteness of nature should their prayers go on unanswered, emphasizing the importance of attaining the God's blessings. And ye high heavens, the temple of the gods. So this line addresses the heavens as a sacred place where divine beings reside, setting an exalted tone and implying that the natural as well as divine realms converge, in which 1,000 torches flaming bright. So the reference to 1,000 torches symbolizes the multitude of stars or divine lights in the heavens, suggesting guidance, illumination, and the presence of divine favor. Do burn that to us wretched earthly clods. So the poet refers to humanity as wretched earthly clods, highlighting our mortal limitations and frailties emphasizing a sense of humility in the face of celestial grandeur. In dreadful darkness, lend desired night. So, this line contrasts the brightness of the heavenly torches with earthly darkness, evoking an image of hope, where divine light provides clarity and guidance for mortal beings. And all ye powers which in the same remain. So the speaker invokes various divine powers residing in the heavens, suggesting a multitude of entities that influence earthly events more than we men can feign. So, this line suggests that human imagination is limited and the true nature and capacity of divine powers surpass whatever humans can conceive. Pour out your blessings on us plenteously. So, the speaker requests abundant blessings from the heavens, indicating a need for divine favor in marital union and the generation of offsprings and happy influence upon us reign. So, the imagery of happy influence suggests that the blessings should be like refreshing rain, nourishing the marriage and fostering growth both spiritually and materially, that we may raise a large posterity. So, the desire to raise a large posterity indicates a wish for many children, emphasizing the importance of lineage and continuity, which from the earth which they may long possess. So there is a longing for descendants who will inhabit the earth, suggesting hopes of prosperity and stability throughout generations. With lasting happiness, so the wish for lasting happiness reflects an aspiration for enduring joy and fulfillment, which transcends the fleeting nature of earthly life. Up to your haughty palaces may mount. So, this line expresses a desire for eventual elevation or ascension to the heavens, indicating a hope for a divine reward or entry into eternal bliss. And for the garden of their glorious marriage. So, garden refers to reward. The speaker believes that the children's virtues and merits will earn them recognition and honor from the divine. May heavenly tabernacles there inherit. So the heavenly tabernacles symbolize divine abodes. The imagery suggests aspirations towards spiritual fulfillment and everlasting life in the presence of the divine. Of blessed saints for to increase the count. So this line implies a desire for the lineage to be associated with the saints, suggesting that their offspring should be virtuous and join the ranks of the blessed. So let us rest sweet love in hope of this. So the poet calls for a pause in their joyous celebrations, using sweet love to refer to their shared affection, emphasizing unity and shared aspirations, and cease till them are timely joys to sing. So they deliberate on putting aside their current joys until their hopes are fulfilled, indicating that future happiness should take precedence over present celebrations. The woods no more us answer nor our echo ring. So this line concludes with a somber note of reflection. Nature, typically full of life and sound, reflects their temporary cessation, symbolizing a moment of quiet anticipation for future joys. Song made in lieu of many ornaments. So the poet begins by stating that the song he's composed serves as a substitute for the physical decorations and adornments used to celebrate a wedding. This suggests the profound value of the song as a tribute to love and marriage, with which my love should duly have been decked. So the use of decked means decked implies that the beloved deserved to be adorned luxuriously. In this context, love is portrayed as worthy of great celebration, enhancing the purity and beauty of the union, which cutting off through hasty accidents. So, cutting off suggests that certain events or circumstances have prevented the expected grandeur of the celebration. Hasty accidents conveys the idea of unforeseen or rushed occurrences that disrupt the elaborate plans. Ye would not stay your due time to expect. So the speaker identifies a failure to wait for the right time or proper moment for celebration. This line emphasizes impatience or urgency in the circumstances, lacking the desirable patience that should accompany a wedding, but promise both to recompense. So, in this line, there's an assurance or promise to make up for what has been lost or interrupted. The speaker calls upon celestial or divine influences, promising that recompense will be given for the shortcomings. Be unto her a goodly ornament. So, this line indicates that the divine influences or blessings will serve as beautiful decorations for the beloved. It reveals an intention to elevate her status and beauty through these spiritual gifts, and for short time an endless monument. So the concluding line of the excerpt suggests a dual nature. The short-lived joys of the ceremony contrasted with an endless monument. So the idea is that while the physical decorations and celebrations may be temporary, the love and commitment shared through marriage will endure eternally. Then with this video lecture ends here. Hope this video lecture will help you in your exams. Thank you.